detour, and we'll come back to the verse in a minute, but an important detour, rather an advanced detour, which will come much later on in Panchadasi. In the 7th chapter, this is explained, and then elsewhere also. But the more I'm understanding the more it is becoming clear to me, the more I can see the truth of this. This is an important thing to see. Okay? So now, it might take me quite a while to build this picture for you, but it's an important picture. And normally I won't do this in this relatively introductory class, but since the topic is there, why not? That you're all, students who've been studying for a while. So here goes. We have a false notion which is supported by a number of schools of thought that are not sampradayika. They are not using the right sampradaya. And what they say is that the study and the understanding of Atma, okay, so this is what is called self-realization. So this phenomena is called self-realization. Now the words self-realization, there is nothing wrong with that, because ultimately this is what it is. But the way it is communicated is not correct. Self-realization. And what is communicated by these two words normally is there is a theoretical introduction, and then you have to put it into practice. This is the way it is conveyed. This is not correct. Please be very, it might take a little while for us to see, and we may have to repeat it, but I'm just giving you the introduction. So it is generally understood, and a lot of questions from our own students come in, that where is the experience? I don't have the experience. I believe what you're telling me. You are careful in framing this. You don't even say, I understand what you're telling me. So you use the word I believe means that I sort of give the shraddha to you. I don't think you are the bluffing kind. You don't, because if I'm raising a lot of money, then I can bluff that, put your hand on this and then you will be cured and something like that. So you don't say that, but you say, okay, I believe in what you're saying, but I don't have the experience. So our attitude towards learning is that first you're just looking at some words, and then eventually it will turn into an experience, which will be called self-realization. Maybe, I'm not sure, but at least there is a possibility. So this is bunkam. This view of looking at things is totally bunkam. And why it is the case will give you some ideas, but even this you may not be able to completely appreciate, but at least try. Okay? So here's the goes. The advanced view is that the Atma is always of the nature of experience. So think over this, listen to this carefully. Atma, the nature of Atma is an experience. That means, I'm just rewording that to say that the Atma is nitya aparoksha. Aparoksha means never away. Very clear, that part is very clear. I can never be away from myself. You cannot say that I was not. Even to say that I was not, you need the I. So the I is the common element of all experiences. In fact, the Atma is the experience. So when you say that I don't have any experience of the Atma, that itself is false. Because when you say I don't have the experience, that means that you are discounting the presence of I. That's not possible. What you are really saying is, I don't have the experience of non-duality. Is what you're saying. I don't have the experience of non-duality. Okay, good. Now we have made some progress. You cannot say that I don't have the experience. I need to experience, as though you are someone who will have something that you will say, this is the experience. So the experience and the Atma are basically different. That's what you're telling me. Now we have debunked that theory, because the Atma is always the nature of experience. So now we go to the second step, which will say, okay, I understand what you don't have is the experience of non-duality. That is true. You don't have the experience of non-duality. It turns out that is also wrong. That is also wrong. The fact that I don't have an experience of non-duality is also wrong. Why is it wrong? You have always the experience of non-duality. Always. But your conclusion is that you are dual. Your experience has always been non-duality. Always, and can never be non-duality. Can never be duality. It's intrinsically, just like you have immortality, is the same thing. Immortality and non-duality are the same. And so, really speaking, so why is it the same? So let's pause and look at that. It is the same because what limits you is something that you are not. So death limits you. And so you and the death are dual. So that, of course, is the nature of mortality. So therefore, duality and mortality can be on the same side of the equation. And we say that you're not even, are you, just like we said, you are not mortal, we say you're not dual. Never dual. Your nature is non-duality. How so? I can't believe this. This is what I'm telling you, this is advanced stuff which will take some time to enunciate and understand, but I'll just give you the basics of it. So look at this. All your experiences are aparoksha. All your experiences are aparoksha. What do you mean by all experiences are aparoksha? When I don't see something here in this, isn't that a paroksha? On the other room there is this Kerala Ayurveda, we don't see it right now. So that's a paroksha vastu. So how can you say that? Because look at this. Anything that you cognize at any time is your vision. is your vision, your interpretation of how a thing is. So, for example, I am not really seeing you. Not seeing you. I am seeing the image of you in my eyes. And reversed. There's a couple of reversals. And there's also a subjectivity to it. Because even when I'm looking at you, I could have some impressions about you. So, really speaking, I don't look at yourself as separate from me. I am always so now what's happened is that the I, the consciousness, the awareness, the Atma, has in it some images. Some images. And that is part and parcel of the expanded I. This is the part and parcel of the expanded I. Means when I say I, whether I am closing my eyes, that is also I. When I am opening the eyes, that is also I. That I includes some images that I see. But the images are really aparoksha. You see this? We'll revisit it. It took me a long time to see this. So therefore, my whole experience of life at any time, whether I'm looking at this way, I'm looking here, I'm looking this, whatever it is always aparoksha. The only thing is that my conclusion, because of ignorance, self-ignorance and whatever reason, is that I compartmentalize that I am only this much and you are only that much. So I introduce Dvaita into an aparoksha vastu. And I'm always there as the I. In any experience, in any experience really, I am always there. It is very much like, for example, supposing there is a wave of the ocean and it's looking at other waves of the ocean. It is if for example water had some consciousness in it. Let's assume for a minute that the water has consciousness in it. So the consciousness of the wave is due to the consciousness of the water. And so when the wave says, my neighboring waves, it is due to the consciousness of the water. And it is also looking at other waves also as nothing but conscious water. But because of certain conclusions, it only looks upon itself as a conscious wave. It is not able to equate the water for the others, for the water with itself. Not somehow some problem with that. Until it is pointed out, what the heck are you doing? Where do you see differences? And he says, what do you mean? I was just born yesterday and I'm going to die and these other people are stronger than me. Look at those, they're having fun. He says, oh my God, ridiculous. Don't you see that is just a play? It is just water, nothing but water alone. You are always there. You cannot disappear. He says, what do you mean? Yeah, you may disappear, the form may disappear, of course, we're not saying that. But you will never disappear. You're always there. So therefore, you as the water is always there means it is, don't you see, that is aparoksha. And your vision of others is always there. In that vision there is a confusion about Dvaita. So we can now summarize. I'd like to go back to the text now, but in summary, what is said is that Atma Nitya Aparoksha. Nitya Aparoksha. And Nitya Aparoksha with or without scene in front of you. The scene in front of you is just mithya. It is not a competing reality. The competition of the reality only comes from your Brahma. Poor thinking, not thinking correctly. So you cannot, so therefore, away with this thing about theory and practice. And I don't have the experience. You always have the experience. You are not interpreting the experience properly. That's all the matters. This is the central theme of this sampradaya, from all the way from Shankaracharya. And yet you find other schools of thought, they challenge it and say, no, 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 you first have to do this, and then you have to do meditation, then you have to do some puja, and then this is all theoretical, and this is, and so on and so forth. And then finally we said, okay, fine, believe whatever you want to say. Good, God bless you, wonderful. But to the own students, they say, please understand the stupidity of doing this. It is Nitya Paroksha. Nitya Aparoksha. And the nature of the I is, and really speaking, the Sakshi, the I, is not just you. This is another thing to see, really, I tell you. I'm just giving you bits and pieces from others. Do you know what the nature of Ishvara is? The real nature of Ishvara? It is to impart to you I. The basic nature of Ishvara is I. Now, the not I is your creation, which is also the possibility of Ishvara's creation, because your creation is not completely different from Ishvara's creation. The possibility of Ishvara's creation is yours. So the not I, in the fun of the creation, is left up to some variation. So people can say, I'm a male, I'm a female, I'm Indian, I'm Westerner, I'm a Brahmana, I'm a Kshatriya, I'm black, I'm white. All those are non-I's. And there is infinite variety. This is where the Acharyas point out that Ishvara's creation is incredible, that no two thumb prints are the same. Just a matter of like half inch. Amazing. There are no one in the whole past has that thumbprint, and no one in the future will have that thumbprint. It's not as though after 100 years your thumbprint will come again. No, just some squiggly lines. What a creation. So everybody is very unique in terms of the non-I, which is the thumbprint. But when it comes to the I, it is not a variation. It is the same I. And this I is the nature of Ishvara. So the Saguna Brahma can be different, but the Nirguna Brahma is the same. Just amazing. This is where the presence of Ishvara is in the whole creation. How? I. The conscious entity, I. But it's just that this is the experience. This is the nature of the experience. I. But you are surrounding that I with a non-I which is very unique. I'm very sad. You seem to be very happy. I'm disappointed. I'm unlucky. I'm very lucky. All kinds of things. And so the feeling of being lucky and feeling of being non-lucky, sad, happy, it is also aparoksha. Because it is your own experience. And in that experience, due to non-viveka, the pure I is not distinguished from the non-I. You lump them together. Funny problem. Anyway, now we can go back to it. So the Shastra says that for you to clean up this confusion in your mind, that's all that needs to be done. To clean up that confusion, there are 3 things that you need to do. Atmavare drashtavya means that you have to see this very, drashtavya means the very clarity of this conclusion. Then the 3 things are Shrotavya, you have to listen to it by an authoritative voice who will point out that the aparoksha vastu has been misunderstood or has not been correctly identified. Like if the senator was sitting in the class but I don't know him, then I need an introduction. I'll never know him, until somebody says, do you know who this is? So similarly, I am nitya aparoksha but confused. And so this is where the Mahavakya, so Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava. So Anubhava means that Anubhava is done. Anubhava means that you are always the nature of the experience. Only the Shruti and the Yukti have to be employed to correct the problem. And so Shravanam means a complete understanding along with the Mahavakya Tattvamasi. What are you talking about? Your I is not different from any other I. Don't you see? This is the Mahavakya. When I say Ishvara's I, that's the Mahavakya. Ishvara's I and your I are not different because they are both nature of Sakshi. I am. I am aware. I know. This is very fundamental to the whole thing. So this is the Shravanam. And it has to be completely understood in terms of the difference between Satyam and Mithya. And in terms of, so there we see that things appear in a certain way, Akasha, Vayu, etc. It all are different forms. And we'll go to that in a little bit later on. Anyway, so the first part of that is Shravanam. So Shravanam was, along with Shravanam, along with some logic, which we did earlier in this course also, along with the Panchakosha Viveka. Panchakosha Viveka is the Yukti, that is the straightaway logic. And then an authoritative voice, which was in verse number 43 to 52, which was the Mahavakya, is done. And this is not usually enough. It could be. It could be. So, in fact, it's exactly what happens is that when some new topic is being taught, different people grasp it differently, all depending on your background. So, for example, if you have a very subtle subject, very advanced subject in a matter, then people that have trained in it, they're all nodding their heads. That happened to me one time when I remember I took a course, not even a course, it was just a some audited course by a Nobel Prize winner, Dr. I forget even name now. My God, he was my advisor at Berkeley, and so it was fascinating for me to Dr. Donald Glaser was his name. He was the inventor of the bubble chamber. So he was giving a class on some quantum physics or something, and some very PhD people were sitting. So I thought, I'm in the same building. I should also go sit there. And he was talking about it, and people were saying, yeah. But you mean this? He says, yeah, that's what I mean. And I'm looking at people. What are they saying? I'm just enjoying the company of it, didn't understand a word. And other people were saying, yeah, that makes sense, yeah. Then they have some questions, okay. I'm not quite sure why I understand that. Then he explained it and says, oh, yeah, okay. They are all with him. So when you say Shrotavyaha, Shruti, Shravanam itself can be sufficient. Just like it was in the case of Ramana Maharshi, we all give these examples, that when he was saying, don't you know your Atma? You are free from all everything. He says, really? That's what I was feeling. He says, yes, absolutely. He says, oh my God, I can't believe this. You're absolutely right. And others were, if they're listening, they'll say, what are they talking about? What Atma is free and so on and so forth. Just give me some Rasagulla. That's all I want. Yeah, what are they talking about? So, the Shrotavya could be by itself, but usually not there. Swami Dayanand used to say that in the Kali Yuga, in the case of Dvaita Yuga and all these, when Rama was there and Krishna was there and so on, everybody was very well educated, not everybody, most people were extremely well educated, very dharmic, their minds were all. But as time passes, we are actually passing through this Kali Yuga, which is even worse going to come, and nothing gets into our brain. But it can. And if honored for do that, the next step is mantavyaha, mananam. And so, verse number 53, which we will begin today, it took us this long to get to it, we're almost at the end of the class, is mananam. So let's look at the words here. So he says, number 53, Itham vakyaihi tat artha anusandhanam shravanam bhavet. So he says, Itham vakyaihi, by these, with the help of these vakyas. What vakyas? That, up to 52. Vikalpata dabhavadhyam ansprishtas atma vastuni, and before that, that it is the nature of lakshana, it is neither Ishvara nor Jiva, but it is the very, all of those vakyas that we studied. Itham vakyaihi, by these vakyas, tat artha anusandhanam Shravanam bhavet, means that the Shravanam is defined to be the understanding of the meaning of those sentences. Meaning of those sentences. Tadartha, vakyaihi tadartha anusandhanam. Not words. Words are part of the vakya. But the overall sense of the vakya, of the sentences, vakya means sentence. So not the meaning of words, but the meaning of sentences. First of all, words have to be understood. So for example, if there is a person here who doesn't know English, and we are talking in English, nothing will be understood. Supposing there is a lecture in Mandarin, and we don't know Mandarin. then nothing will be understood. So you need to know the words first. Then you should also have a mature enough mind to understand the sentence meaning. And it is not until you see the sentence meaning, understand the sentence meaning, Shravanam is not complete. Shravanam is not complete. So, in summary, the Shravanam itself requires a lot of work. Here Swami Maheshanji gives an example. He says, that, for example, where did he say that? Well, he did it later on. So he says, supposing, you're learning a new language. So there, as Kumud is also explaining in the in some of the basic class on Sanskritam. So there, somebody has to say, write start like this, then have two, and then line, and put a bindu will be and then you have to practice doing that. And then you keep forgetting it, what does it mean? Then you practice it, then you say, oh, this is this is ka, this is ka. And this is why learning becomes so difficult, and later on in the life, young kids can just get it like that. And so first you have to do that. Then you have to repeat it. After that, the words have to be understood. Then the grammatical structure of the words have to be understood. This is a past tense, this is a present tense, and so on. That has to be understood. Then finally you are able to understand the sentence meaning. So all of this is Shravanam. So similarly here also, in terms of what is Atma, what is Mithya, what is Satyam, and all of those kinds of things, what is Kosha Viveka, Aviveka, and then all the Pancha Mahabhutas and so on and so forth. And it just takes a long time for you to grasp exactly what is being said. So this is all Shravanam. Then the end of the Shravanam is that, listen, there's no fundamental difference between the creator and the created. The Ishvara and the Jiva are one and the same, because the I is the same. I is the same, as we saw earlier. So up to this point, now Shravanam is taking place. Here he says, for example, well, anyway, I think that's enough. I think that'll be okay. Then Mananam starts. And Mananam means that I don't understand it. I believe in what you're saying. You seem to know what you're talking about. So I have no intention of going away from here, because I can't find anyone else that has a better explanation. But I still don't understand what you're telling me. Then, so up to that point, Shravanam is not complete. When you understand what is being said, Shravanam is complete. But now, there is a disparity between what I see my own status in life is and what you are telling me about yourself. You are telling me that I am a free bird. I'm immortal. Whereas I don't understand, how can I be immortal? That's not possible. Well, I sort of get it, but my mind tells me that's not true. Every time I fall down or I get sick or something like this, And anytime there's a funeral in the local society, my mind just says, you are very mortal. You're very mortal. So now I have a discrepancy between what my teacher is telling me, backed by the teacher is not telling by himself, but backed by the Shruti, with the whole force of the Shruti. This is what is called the royal we. So when the Raja says, we will take care, he doesn't mean just himself, the whole army. A lot of force. So when I also say, we will explain it to you, it is not just me. My teachings, my teachers, the texts, all the way up to Adi Shankara, all the way up to Vyasa, Ishvara, I represent that. And he said, no, you are not mortal. And so when that happens, there is a discrepancy between this authoritative voice and what my spouse is telling me. And in fact, this is the thing. Do not, unless you come here as a couple, which is good. But if you come here as a single person, do not discuss Vedanta with your spouse. Because he or she will put you down very quickly and you cannot get out of it. And so until you keep on doing this, mananam is all internal. Outwardly you just do whatever you want to, but the mananam has to be done internally. And so now, so the process of doing mananam, okay, the process of doing mananam is to bring to your mind both what you think is your experience and what the Shastra says is the experience. Like for example, this is why I gave the example of the Nitya Aparoksha, that the nature of the Atma is nothing but an experience. But an experience in which there is a confusion about Dvaita. So now you bring that viewpoint. And then you also bring the viewpoint of Dvaita. In fact, I tell you, Swami Maheshananji is very clear about that in the 7th chapter when we go into much more details. I don't know when. It's 300 verses, absolutely marvelous verses. So he says, and in fact there is another book that he has written which I think I was telling you about. It's called Vyakti Tattva Vikas. So in that book he also says, the biggest problem is that you are ready to believe a nonsense about you, and you're not ready to believe the truth about you. Yes, Swami Viditatmananda had given the same thing in a very beautiful example. He said, I don't know whether it happened to him or I think it's just a Vedantic example maybe. So there was a talk given by a Swami. A lot of people used to come in from the public and so on and so forth. And they used to come to listen to it, and before they come to the hall, they have to leave their shoes outside. And so this Seth, this big businessman, very well, a lot of money and well respected in the community, very well dressed and so on and so forth. There's a silk shawl and all that. He used to come, and this used to come regularly for the talks. And this Swami was talking about, you are the Atma. You are the very, which is the same thing as the Ishvara, and so on and so forth. And he used to sit down and take notes and so on and so forth, and he was very sincere. So one day, he came to the Swami with tears in his eyes. He said, Swamiji, something really bad has happened to me. He said, why? What happened? He says, this man See this man, the third man sitting there? He was publicly accusing me that I stole his shoes. And he was saying, I have seen you wearing my new shoes and you left the old one. You are such a thief. You think you are a big guy. You are just nothing but a thief. And he says, sir, this has really upset me. And how can anybody do this? I have led my life with such purity and so on and so forth, and this man is doing that. So Swamiji said, well, could it have happened that you? He says, yes, it could have happened because, they looked the same. So I was in deep thought and I was just very possible. But he says, the insult does not really leave me. The Swami said, this is a very strange thing. For the last 21 days, I am telling you, you are the Atma, you are nothing but the best in the whole world, and that has not affected you. Okay? You are just goes right above your head. And this young guy has just made a casual comment, which may be wrong, and you are now deeply upset about it. That is, he says, very incredible. You cannot believe it. So really, our situation is the same. And so, Swami Meshananji says, the way to do mananam is to assert the strength of the Atma. You have kept it, you've neglected it so much. You've taken it for granted. You've belittled it. The most powerful thing that you have, which is immortality, you don't understand it, even when it is being told, you don't believe it. And yet, any small thing that happens in your life, how dare my spouse say some bad things about me? How can my children, they were just insulting me. And he says the problem with that is that these trivial things you immediately get to it because, it is exactly like a kind of like a homeless person who's so interested in making sure that you have some food in your tummy and so on. When he is told that you are a very rich man, he says, I don't know, keep that money aside. Assert that money. You have it. In fact, it is said that in the Bhagavad Gita also, there is a word called kripanaha. Kripanaha means a maha-kanjus. A maha is what is it called? What's the English? Miser. Maha-miser. Maha-miser. Maha-miser means, the Swami Dayananda used to say that. He says there are two emotions that are very interesting to analyze, and they are very strange. One is miserliness, and the other one is jealousy. So he says, let's look at that. He was just saying that. I remember he used to say this. So he says, both are extremely irrational. Like, for example, supposing you're having a fight with someone. That is rational. Because up to a point, that means that you disagree and it has come up to some kind of a boil and so on. But suppose you are a happy person, you have enough money to go by, your children are doing okay, they respect you, and you have enough friends, your health is also okay, and you are now, so on and so forth. And then you met your classmate from your college on some kind of and you say, hi, and this guy you were one of the people who were at the very top of the class, and this guy used to get C's. And you say, how are you doing these days? He says, I just sold my third company. You did what? He says, yeah, the first one was I just made about $20 million, and then I just decided,
Too much less.
it's enough. And then I gave it to my son. And then my second one, now I'm about $500 million of net, and you have $200 in your bank account. and you're happy. Not 200, but supposing you have some money, you're happy. All of a sudden, that happiness is thrown out of the water. And you come home upset, and your spouse says, what happened? He says, I don't know. This guy has become so rich. Why did he become so rich? She says, but you're happy. Just stay being happy. She says, no. Jealousy is very irrational. And the other one is miserliness. Miserliness means that you neither spend the money on yourself, and if your kid says, sir, can I have a couple of $1,000? He says, nope. You earn it yourself. And you're counting money every day. Oh, good, 200,000, now 2,000, and so on. You don't spend on anything. Spend it. Even on yourself. Forget about others. Miserliness. It's exactly the same situation is there. In the Viveka Chudamani, it says that those who leave this world without really discovering the Atma are Mahakripana. Mahakripana. You have all of this. Use it for gain immortality, for heaven's sake. Oh, no, I don't know. I'm very busy. I have to see some movies first. And I've got to do this. Everybody's mortal, so it's okay. I'll just... Hey, no. See, this is I think I remember, I forget which Acharya said that. This is very true. That if you are a homeless person sitting there on the ground somewhere, and somebody says, are you John somebody? He says, yeah. He says, can we talk? So he says, why? I don't understand what you... He says, your aunt has left you $200 million. And I just want to see your ID. That's it. So you say, what? And then after a lot of transactions and so on and so forth, he signs the paper and he says that the bank manager shakes hands with him. He is so happy that the 200 million have been deposited. And he puts it down on a chair, sir, and he says, please, can I bring you some? He says, can I have a Coke? And so he says, anything else? No, but maybe a hamburger perhaps. I haven't had one for a while. He says, no, but is that all? He says, yeah, that's all. That'll be it. And he doesn't touch the $200 million for a year.
Nice. Because
he thinks that, because he cannot grasp what 200 million is. Like a child, it's very interesting when you talk to your children. If you tell them that there's an extra $1 for ice cream, they'll be very happy. But you tell them that here is $1,000, they'll say, I don't understand what $1,000 means. They have no idea about it. Exactly the same situation is. When the Vedanta says, do you know by a little bit of study you can understand that you are immortal? You'll say, well, that sounds interesting, but later. Not now. I've got some work to do and so on. He said, no, just do it right now. Because you don't know how long you last. And he says, well, it's okay. If I die, I die. It's okay. I don't have the time. Funny situation. So, therefore, Swami Maheshananji said, and I'll close this class, there's more to be said, that what you need to do, what the basic process of mananam is lift up the Atma and assert it. Assert it. And It is yours. And until you weigh the two and really put your weight behind something which is amazing, then the Shravanam will be just wasted. So the methods of doing that we will see, how to do that and so on. So the one other thing that I can very quickly in 2-3 minutes say is this word anusandhanam. So the word anusandhanam in short means is different from sandhanam. Sandhanam means, one second, I want to look at the exact. I can't find it, it's here somewhere. Anyway. So sandhanam would mean, without the prefix anu, sandhanam would mean that you create the possibility of immortality. Oh yeah, I think that's possible, okay, let's look into that and so on. Anusandhana means that you grasp the Shravanam of immortality and you employ mananam to say, yes, this can be true. So no independent thinking should be done, because it is a very, I'll discuss it some other time, there is a very important reason why independent thinking doesn't work. And I'll just tell you now and then explain it some other. Because the human being is an effect of confusion itself. So it is what is called Brahma Karyam. It is the Karyam of Brahma. So independent thinking means that you work within the realm of Brahma. You have to get outside of the Brahma to somebody who says that this is Brahma. That you cannot do until you get help from outside. So this is the reason for what is called Anusandhanam. And so the meaning of the Anusandhanam will be that something is being told to you about the immortality, and then you employ your thinking to make that very clear to yourself. Yes, this alone can be true. And so this is the assertion. When you say assert the Atma, this is what it means. Don't immediately go into a wrong meaning of yourself. Instead, dwell on this enormous wisdom which is pulling you out of mortality. This is the meaning of Mananam, and we have some more things to say. And so then with that, the Mananam, only one verse is given for Mananam, and then 54 Nididhyasanam will be given, and we will discuss that next time. Okay, so with that I'll close today's class. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.